Admiral Jack stood on the bridge of the EDF Valiant, watching the stars drift past the main. It was another quiet day in the outer territories, the kind of peaceful patrol that made the younger crew members restless. Jack didn't mind the quiet. After 30 years in the military, he had learned to appreciate boring days. Earth had joined the Galactic Council 15 years ago, and those years had not been easy. The alien species that made up the council treated humans like unwanted guests at a fancy party. They smiled politely during meetings, but made it clear they thought humans were primitive and dangerous. Too violent, too reckless, too new to space travel to really matter. Jack understood their concerns. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel by accident when a research team stumbled onto an ancient alien device near Mars. Other species had spent thousands of years developing the technology. Humans just got lucky and reverse-engineered it in a decade. Admiral, I'm picking up something strange, Lieutenant Burns said from her station at communications. She was young, maybe 25, with sharp eyes and quick fingers that danced across her control panel. Strange how? Jack asked, moving closer to her station. It's a distress signal, sir. Old frequency. Really old. The kind the Council used about 200 years ago before they updated their systems. Adjusted her headset and frowned. The signal is weak and breaking up, but someone is definitely calling for help. Jack felt a familiar tension settle in his chest. Can you clean it up? Figure out who's sending it. Worked in silence for a minute, her face lit by the blue glow of her screens. Got it, sir. It's coming from Haven's Rest. That's a colony world about 4 days from here if we use the new route through the gap. The Jack knew them well. They were one of the most advanced species in the galaxy, with ships that made Earth's fleet look like toys. They were also some of the most arrogant beings he had ever met. The representative on the council had once told him directly that humans should stick to their own solar system until they grew up as a species. What's the message say? Jack asked. His face went pale as she listened. Sir, they're under attack. Something called the swarm hit them. Their defense fleet was destroyed. The colony's shields are failing. They're requesting immediate military assistance from any council member. She paused. Sir, they sound really scared. I've never heard a sound scared before. Commander Ben Harper, Jack's second-in-command, stood up from his chair. He was a tall man with gray hair and a cautious nature. The swarm, that's impossible. They went extinct centuries ago. Every school kid learns about them in history class. Apparently not extinct enough, Jack said quietly. He turned to the navigation officer. How far are the nearest reinforcements? 3 weeks away, sir, came the reply. Their main fleet is on the other side of the galaxy, dealing with border disputes. What about other council members? They have ships in the region, but they're 5 days out. The Morphin fleet could get there in a week if they pushed their engines hard. Jack looked at the tactical display. 4 days. The human third battle fleet could be there in 4 days. He pulled up the information on the swarm, reading quickly through the historical files. What he saw made his blood run cold. They were a nightmare from the galaxy's past. Biomechanical monsters that consumed entire worlds. They adapted to any weapon used against them. They fought with overwhelming numbers and no mercy. Admiral, we need to think about this carefully, Ben said, stepping closer and lowering his voice. They had better ships than us, better weapons, better shields. If they couldn't stop what makes you think we can? It was a fair question. Jack had asked himself the same thing. The military was legendary. Their smallest warship packed more firepower than Earth's best carrier. If they had been wiped out this easily, what chance did humans have? We might not be able to stop them, Jack admitted. But we're the only ones who can get there in time to try. Sir, this could be a suicide mission. We could lose the entire fleet. Jack turned to look at his old friend. Ben, do you remember why you joined the military? Ben blinked, surprised by the question. To protect people, to help those who can't help themselves. Exactly. And right now, there are millions of civilians on that planet waiting to die because no one will help them. Jack straightened his uniform. Yes, they've treated us like garbage. Yes, they think we're primitive warmongers who got lucky. But they're still people, and they need help. We're not equipped for this fight, Jack. Maybe not. But we're here and we can try. That has to count for something. Jack walked back to his command chair and pressed the fleet-wide communication button. All ships, this is Admiral. We've received a distress call from a colony under attack. We are the only force in range to respond. I know this mission is dangerous. I know the odds aren't good. But someone needs our help, and that's why we wear these uniforms. All ships are to form up and prepare for immediate jump to Haven's Rest. Out. He switched to the tactical channel. Get me Captain Lisa Grant, Captain Rick Martinez, and Captain Amy. We need to coordinate our approach. Within minutes, the faces of 3 of his best officers appeared on the screen. Lisa Grant commanded the EDF Thunderbolt, a fast attack cruiser. Rick Martinez led the EDF Storm Chaser, a heavy weapons platform. Amy captained the EDF Iron Wolf, the fleet's most heavily armored ship. You all heard the situation, Jack said. We're going up against something that destroyed a fleet. I need ideas. Lisa spoke first. The fight in traditional formations. Heavy firepower, strong shields, standard military doctrine. Maybe that's why they lost. They have been fighting for thousands of years. They've seen every conventional tactic. Rick nodded slowly. So we don't fight conventionally. We do what humans do best. We improvise, we adapt, we take risks. We also need to study everything we can about the during the jump, Amy added. 4 days isn't much time, but it's better than nothing. If they have a weakness, we need to find it. Jack felt a spark of hope. This was why he believed in his crew. They didn't give up before they started. Good. Coordinate with your tactical officers. I want battle plans, contingencies, and backup plans for the backup plans. We jump in 30 minutes. And as the officers signed off and the crew rushed to prepare, looked up from her station. "Admiral, should we tell the we're coming?" Jack thought about it for a moment. Yes, send them a message. Tell them the human third battle fleet is 4 days out and coming to help. What if they don't want our help? Then they can file a formal complaint after we save their lives. Ben sat down heavily in his chair. "You know this is crazy, right?" Completely crazy," Jack agreed. "But that's never stopped humans before." The Valiant's engines hummed to life as the 12 ships of Earth's third battle fleet formed up in perfect formation. On the bridge, Jack watched the stars and thought about what awaited them at Haven's Rest. He knew this mission might be the end of his fleet, but he also knew that doing nothing was not an option. Humanity had spent 15 years trying to earn respect through diplomacy and trade. Maybe it was time to show the galaxy what humans were really made of. Not through words or politics, but through action, through courage, through the simple act of answering when someone called for help. "All ships report ready, sir," Ben announced. "Then let's go save some lives," Jack said. "Engage." The fleet jumped to faster than light speed, racing toward a battle that would change everything. The 4 days of travel felt like 4 years. Every member of the third battle fleet worked around the clock, studying every scrap of information about the swarm. What they learned was not encouraging. Major Stevens, the fleet's tactical analyst, spent hours in the data archives. He was a quiet man who preferred computers to people, but his mind worked like a machine when it came to military strategy. On the second day, he called a meeting with all the ship captains. "They are a hive mind," explained, pulling up images on the main screen. The creatures looked like a nightmare combination of insect and machine. They learn from every attack. If you hit them with missiles, they adapt their shields. If you use lasers, they adjust their armor. The historical records show entire civilizations fell because the just kept adapting until nothing worked. "That's encouraging," Captain Rick Martinez muttered. He sat with his arms crossed, his face tired from lack of sleep. So we're heading into a fight against an enemy that becomes immune to whatever we use against them. Not exactly immune, said. The adaptation takes time. Maybe 10 or 15 minutes after first exposure. The real problem is they never forget. If a swarm fought missiles 1,000 years ago, they still remember. They start the battle already adapted. Captain Lisa Grant leaned forward. What about their command structure? They're a hive mind, right? That means there has to be something controlling them. Smiled slightly. It was the first time anyone had seen him smile in days. That's the key. Commander Susan and I have been working on this together. Show them, Susan. Susan, the fleet's chief engineer, was a short woman with oil stains permanently under her fingernails. She pulled up a new image showing the structure of a swarm. Every swarm has command nodes. Think of them like the queen bee in a hive. These nodes coordinate the attack, process the adaptation, and relay orders to the rest of the swarm. Without them, they become confused and disorganized. So we kill the command nodes, Admiral said. How many are we talking about? Based on the size of the force at Haven's Rest, probably 6 to 10 major nodes scattered throughout the swarm. Captain Amy, who had been silent until now, spoke up. They tried to fight through the swarm to reach the nodes. That's why they failed. They have numbers, thousands of ships. They couldn't break through. So we don't break through, Rick said slowly. We go around. Or better yet, we go through so fast they can't react. Split the fleet, Lisa added, her eyes lighting up. Small strike groups. Hit multiple nodes at once. They can't adapt to all of us if we're attacking from different angles with different weapons. Admiral looked at the tactical display, his mind working through the possibilities. They would never do that. Their doctrine emphasizes staying together, maintaining formation, overwhelming the enemy with concentrated firepower. Which is exactly why they lost, Ben Harper said. Everyone turned to look at him. He had been the most skeptical about this mission, but now he had a strange look on his face. They have been fighting for thousands of years. They've seen every standard military tactic. They know how organized militaries fight. But humans, he shook his head. We're too new, too unpredictable. We don't have thousands of years of doctrine holding us back. We're going to use our inexperience as a weapon, said, understanding dawning in his eyes. They won't know how to adapt to tactics that don't make sense by traditional military standards. It's risky, Susan warned. If we split up, we can't support each other. Each strike group will be on its own. But we'll be fast, Lisa said. Get in, hit the target, get out before they can swarm us. Use every dirty trick we can think of. Admiral made his decision. We divide into 4 strike groups. Each group targets specific command nodes. We hit them all at the same time, coordinated to the second. We use different weapons and tactics for each strike to maximize their confusion. Work with each captain to develop their individual approach. Susan, I want every weapon we have ready to go, even the experimental ones. Oh, the kinetic kill vehicles, Susan asked. Sir, those haven't been properly tested yet. Perfect. They definitely won't have seen them before. Load them up. The plan came together over the next 2 days. Each strike group studied their target and developed their approach. Captain Grant's Thunderbolt would lead a speed run, using her ship's superior maneuverability to dart in and out of the swarm. Captain Martinez's Storm Chaser would hang back and use long-range bombardment with the experimental kinetic weapons. Captain's Iron Wolf would make a direct assault, relying on heavy armor to push through. Admiral's group, consisting of the Valiant and 3 escort ships, would be the wild card. They would improvise based on what happened with the other strikes, exploiting any weakness they found. On the 4th day, Lieutenant Burns announced they were approaching Haven's Rest, dropping out of faster than light in 30 seconds. The bridge grew quiet. Every person found something to hold on to. The transition from faster-than-light travel always felt strange, like the universe, and forgot where you were for a moment. Transition complete, the navigation officer announced. We are in the Haven's rest system. What they saw made everyone go silent. The planet hung in space like a jewel, its blue oceans and green continents visible even from this distance. But surrounding it was a nightmare. Thousands upon thousands of ships swarmed around Haven's rest like angry insects. They weren't ships in the traditional sense. They looked organic, grown rather than built, with strange curves and surfaces that seemed to shift and pulse. Debris from the destroyed fleet floated everywhere. Pieces of ships the size of buildings drifted through space, some still burning with cold fire. Jack had seen battle damage before, but never destruction on this scale. Communications. Establish contact with the colony, Jack ordered. Worked her controls, her face pale. I've got them, sir. Patching through to the governor. A face appeared on the screen. It was a woman, her blue skin marked with stress lines, her large eyes showing fear that her species rarely displayed. This is Governor of Haven's Rest Colony. Whoever you are, you need to leave this system immediately. The will destroy you just like they destroyed our fleet. Governor, this is Admiral Jack of the Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call. We're here to help. As expression shifted from fear to confusion to something that looked almost like pity. Earth, the humans. No offense, Admiral, but our fleet had 60 warships with technology far superior to yours. They lasted 20 minutes. You have 12 ships. This is suicide. Maybe, Jack admitted. But we're all you've got. How long until your shields fail? 6 hours. Maybe 7 if we're lucky. Then we better get started. Admiral out. He turned to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Dan Foster, coordinate with all strike groups. Send them the command node locations. Lieutenant Sarah Miller, make sure everyone's clocks are synchronized. We hit them all at exactly the same time. Admiral, Ben said quietly. Once we start this, there's no going back. We'll be committed. Jack looked at the swarm of ships and felt his determination harden. Good. I wouldn't want them thinking we were uncertain. He pressed the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is. Today we're going to show the galaxy what humans can do. We're going to save millions of lives. We're going to beat an enemy that everyone says is unbeatable. And we're going to do it our way. No rules, no doctrine, just pure human stubbornness and creativity. Trust your crews, trust your instincts. And remember that back home, people are counting on us to prove we belong out here among the stars. Strike groups, move to your positions. We attack in 15 minutes. The 4 strike groups separated and began moving to their assigned locations around the swarm. They hadn't noticed them yet. They were too focused on hammering the colony's shields. Captain Lisa Grant's voice came over the private command channel. Jack, if this goes wrong, it's been an honor serving with you. It's not going wrong, Jack replied. We're humans. We don't know how to quit. On the surface of Haven's Rest, Governor watched her displays as the human ships moved into position. Her military advisor stood beside her, his expression doubtful. They're going to split up, the advisor said. That's madness. We'll destroy them one by one. But found herself hoping he was wrong. There was something about the human admiral's voice, a confidence that didn't come from superior weapons or technology. It came from something else, something that had lost somewhere in their long history. Maybe madness is what we need, she said softly. On the Valiant's bridge, the countdown reached 0. All strike groups report ready, Dan announced. Admiral took a deep breath. Then let's show them what humans are made of. All ships attack. The 3rd Battle Fleet charged forward into the swarm. Captain Lisa Grant gripped the arms of her command chair as the thunderbolt dove into the swarm. Her ship was the fastest in the fleet, built for speed and maneuverability rather than heavy armor or weapons. Right now, that design choice felt both brilliant and terrifying. All power to engines and forward shields, she ordered. Weapons, I want firing solutions on that command node the second we're in range. The ships reacted slowly at first. They had been pounding the planet's shields for hours and weren't expecting an attack from outside. That moment of surprise was all Lisa needed. The thunderbolt weaved between enemy vessels, moving in patterns that made no tactical sense. Up, down, spin, dive. Any military academy would have failed her for such erratic flying. But it worked. The couldn't predict where she would be next because even she didn't know until the last second. Her pilot, Lieutenant Jake, flew like he was drunk, and the targeting systems couldn't keep up. "We're through the outer layer," Jake announced, his hands dancing across the controls. "Command node in sight." "Fire everything," Lisa commanded. The Thunderbolt's weapons blazed. Missiles, lasers, plasma cannons, everything they had poured into the command node. The organic-looking structure tried to adapt, its surface shifting and changing, but Lisa had planned for that. She fired different weapons in sequence, never giving it time to fully adjust to any one type. The command node exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "Target destroyed," her weapons officer shouted. "Getting out of here." The thunderbolt spun and accelerated back through the swarm. Behind them, hundreds of ships suddenly went dark. Without the command node to guide them, they drifted aimlessly. Across the battlefield, Captain Rick Martinez watched his weapons display with satisfaction. The Storm Chaser hung at the edge of the swarm, far beyond normal weapon range. That was fine. He wasn't using normal weapons. "Fire kinetic kill vehicles," Rick ordered. 6 small missiles launched from the Storm Chaser. They didn't carry explosives or energy weapons. They were just solid metal cylinders accelerated to incredible speeds by powerful magnetic launchers. The had scoffed at such primitive weapons, but Rick understood something they didn't. Sometimes simple was better. The kinetic vehicles traveled at a significant fraction of light speed. The shields were designed to stop energy weapons and deflect missiles. They weren't ready for something that was essentially a really fast rock. The vehicles slammed into the command node with the force of a small nuclear bomb. The explosion was spectacular. The command node and everything within a kilometer of it simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the kinetic impact. "Reload and fire again," Rick said calmly. "Let's see them adapt to the laws of physics." Captain Amy's approach was different. The Iron Wolf was built like a tank, with armor plating 3 times thicker than any other ship in the fleet. She didn't dodge or dance through the swarm. She went straight through it. "Ramming speed," Amy commanded. "Target that command node and don't stop for anything." The Iron Wolf plowed through ships like a bowling ball through pins. Smaller vessels simply bounced off her thick armor. Larger ones tried to block her path but found themselves pushed aside. Amy's crew fired constantly, not aiming at any specific target, just clearing a path. The swarmed around them, thousands of weapons firing at once. The Iron Wolf's shields flared and died under the assault. Energy weapons scorched her armor, but Amy had counted on that. The Iron Wolf could take damage that would destroy any other ship. "Shields down," her tactical officer reported. "Hull damage on multiple decks." "Keep going," Amy said. "We're almost there." The ship shuddered as something big hit their port side. Warning alarms blared throughout the bridge. But the Iron Wolf kept moving forward, her engines screaming. "In range," the weapons officer announced. "Fire." The Iron Wolf unleashed her full arsenal at point-blank range. The command node tried to defend itself, but it was too close, and Amy's weapons were all firing at once. The node couldn't adapt to everything simultaneously. It broke apart under the assault, pieces spiraling away into space. "Oh, we did it," someone shouted. "Now get us out of here before this ship falls apart," Amy ordered. Admiral watched the tactical display from the bridge of the Valiant. 3 command nodes destroyed within 5 minutes. The swarm was in chaos, large sections of it going dark as their coordination failed. But there were still 3 more nodes active, and they were adapting to the human tactics. The remaining nodes are pulling back, Major Stevens reported. They're clustering together for mutual protection. Smart. Can we reach them? Jack asked. Not the same way. They'll be ready for our approach now. Jack studied the display, his mind racing. The plan was working, but they were learning. That was the problem with fighting a hive mind. They learned fast. He needed something new, something they hadn't seen yet. His eyes fell on the debris field from the destroyed fleet. Huge pieces of starships floated in a rough line between his position and the remaining command nodes. Commander Harper, do we still have those tractor beams installed? Ben looked confused. Yes, but they're designed for salvage operations, not combat. Why would we need them for? Jack smiled. Because we're going to throw things at them. It took Ben a moment to understand. Then his eyes went wide. You want to use the debris as weapons. They won't see it coming. Their defenses are designed for energy weapons and missiles. What happens when we throw a piece of a battleship at them at high speed? That's completely insane. I'll take that as approval. Lieutenant Foster, coordinate with our strike group. I want every tractor beam we have locked onto the biggest pieces of debris we can move. We're going to play a game of cosmic baseball. The 4 ships in this group positioned themselves throughout the debris field. Their tractor beams locked onto massive chunks of the destroyed fleet. The beams pulled the debris toward them, then used precisely timed releases to fling the pieces toward the clustered command nodes. The first piece was a section of hull plating the size of a building. It tumbled through space, accelerating as the Valiant's tractor beam pushed it forward. They saw it coming but didn't react. Why would they? It was just debris. Their shields were designed to deflect it automatically. Except this debris was moving much faster than normal, and was far larger than their shields were calibrated for. The hull section smashed through the shields like they didn't exist, and slammed into one of the command nodes. Both the debris and the node shattered into thousands of pieces. "It worked," shouted from her station. "Keep firing," Jack ordered. "Throw everything we can grab at them." The human ships began hurling debris at the remaining command nodes. They tried to adapt, strengthening their shields and attempting to shoot down the incoming pieces. But the humans kept changing their tactics. Sometimes they threw small pieces, sometimes huge ones. Sometimes they accelerated the debris to incredible speeds. Sometimes they barely pushed it. One of the escort ships, commanded by Captain Gregg, took heavy damage protecting the formation. The EDF defenders' shields failed, and a weapon punched through the hull, but refused to pull back. "We're still operational," he reported through gritted teeth. "We can still fight." His crew worked frantically to seal hull breaches while continuing to operate the tractor beams. The ship was literally falling apart around them, but they kept throwing debris at the enemy. Another command node exploded as a massive piece of an engine core hit it dead center. Then another went dark when three smaller pieces struck it simultaneously from different angles. One command node remained. "All strike groups converge on the last target," ordered. "Hit it with everything at once." The human ships, battered and damaged, all turned toward the final command node. Sensing their command structure was about to collapse entirely, threw everything they had at the humans. The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire. Captain Lisa Grant's Thunderbolt took a direct hit. Her shields failed, and energy weapons burned through her armor. But she kept flying, kept dodging, kept moving toward that last node. Captain Rick Martinez launched his last kinetic vehicle. Captain Amy's Iron Wolf, barely holding together, accelerated one more time. The Valiant and its battered escorts threw the largest piece of debris they could move. And in that moment, as a dozen different attacks converged on a single point from multiple angles, the command structure broke. They couldn't adapt to everything at once. The final command node tried to defend itself, but was overwhelmed. It exploded in a flash brighter than the others. Suddenly, across the entire battlefield, thousands of ships stopped moving. Without any command nodes to coordinate them, they were just individual vessels with no direction, no plan, no unified purpose. All ships press the attack, ordered. Don't give them time to reorganize. The human fleet, bloody and battered but still fighting, tore through the confused swarm. Without coordination, they were vulnerable. They tried to flee, but the humans were faster. They tried to fight back, but their individual attacks lacked the overwhelming power of a coordinated assault. After 8 hours of brutal combat, the remaining vessels retreated, jumping away to deep space. The sky above Haven's Rest was suddenly clear of enemy ships. For a long moment, nobody spoke. They had done it. They had actually done it. Lieutenant Burns broke the silence. "Sir, we're receiving a message from the colony. Governor wants to speak with you." Admiral straightened his uniform, even though it was torn and stained with soot from a fire that had broken out on Deck 7. "Put her through." Governor's face appeared on the screen. She looked stunned, like she couldn't believe what she had just witnessed. "Admiral," she said slowly, "you saved us. Your primitive ships and reckless tactics saved an entire world when our superior fleet failed." She paused. "I don't know whether to thank you or apologize first." Jack smiled, tired but satisfied. "How about we start with the thanks and see where we go from there?" The human fleet floated in orbit around Haven's Rest, and every ship bore the scars of battle. The EDF Defender was the worst. Captain Greg's ship had taken so much damage that it could barely maintain orbit. Pieces of the hull were missing entirely, and emergency force fields flickered across the gaps where the ship's skin should have been. Commander Ben Harper walked through the Valiant's corridors, making his way to the medical bay. The ship's doctor, Laura Hayes, looked exhausted. She had been operating non-stop for 12 hours, treating the wounded from across the fleet. How many did we lose? Ben asked quietly. Laura wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a smear of blood. 347 dead. Another 200 wounded seriously enough that they need to be transferred to the colony's medical facilities. We were lucky, Ben. If this fight had lasted another hour, we would have lost whole ships. Lucky. Ben supposed she was right. They had gone up against a force that had destroyed a technologically superior fleet, and most of them had survived. That was lucky. But standing there, looking at the rows of wounded crew members, it didn't feel lucky. It felt like they had paid a terrible price. The medical teams are on their way up, Laura continued. Governor insisted on sending their best doctors to help. She also sent enough medical supplies to treat everyone twice over. That was something, at least. They were known for their advanced medicine. If anyone could save the seriously wounded, it was them. Admiral spent the next several hours coordinating repairs and casualty reports. Captain refused to abandon the Defender, even though the ship was barely functional. His chief engineer, Pete Collins, and his crew worked miracles just to keep the life support running. "We'll get her home," told over the communication channel. His face was covered in soot, and his uniform was torn. The Defender has been through worse. Doubted that was true, but he admired dedication. Do what you can, Greg. If it gets too dangerous, evacuate your crew to the other ships. Understood, sir. On the planet's surface, Governor stood in her command center, surrounded by her advisors. They had spent the last several hours watching recordings of the battle, trying to understand how the humans had won. They used tactics no military academy would teach, her military advisor said, shaking his head in disbelief. Flying in random patterns, throwing debris like children throwing rocks, splitting their fleet into small groups. Everything they did violated standard military doctrine. And yet it worked, said quietly. Our fleet followed proper doctrine, maintained formation, used our superior weapons, and we were destroyed in 20 minutes. She turned to face him. Maybe it's time we realized that our way isn't the only way. Her advisor looked uncomfortable but nodded. The council needs to know about this. The other species need to know what humans are capable of. Had already been thinking about that. She had spent 15 years looking down on humans as primitive and violent. She had voted against their admission to the Council's Security Committee 3 times. She had publicly stated that humanity should stay in their own solar system until they matured as a species. Now those same humans had risked everything to save her people. They had asked for nothing in return. They had simply heard a distress call and responded, even though they had treated them with contempt. Contact the council, ordered. Tell them everything. Tell them that Haven's rest stands because of human courage, not technology. 2 days later, a medical shuttle landed on the Valiant's hangar deck. Governor herself stepped out, accompanied by her chief medical officer and several assistants carrying equipment and supplies. An admiral met her at the hangar entrance. Up close, he could see the stress lines on her blue skin more clearly. The attack had aged her. Governor, he said formally, welcome aboard the Valiant. Admiral, she replied, I wanted to come in person to thank you and your crew. We have set up temporary medical facilities in our largest shelter. Your seriously wounded are receiving the best care we can provide. We appreciate that. Your doctors have been incredible. Looked around the hangar at the damage. Scorch marks on the walls, twisted metal, emergency repairs that were clearly temporary. Your ships are in bad condition. We'll manage. The important thing is that your colony is safe. She studied his face for a long moment. Why did you come? Your people have every reason to hate us. We've treated you poorly since the day you joined the council. We've blocked your proposals. We've questioned your worthiness. We've made no secret of our contempt. And yet when we called for help, you came anyway. Considered his answer carefully. Because doing the right thing isn't about keeping score, Governor. It's not about who likes us or who doesn't. Someone needed help and we could provide it. That's enough reason. Your species is remarkable, said softly. We thought you were primitive because your technology is less advanced. We thought you were violent because of your history, but we were wrong. You're not primitive. You're adaptable. You're not violent. You're courageous. We mistook inexperience for weakness. We're still learning, admitted. We make mistakes. We're rough around the edges, but we try our best. Straightened and made a formal gesture that recognized as a sign of deep respect. The Senate has authorized me to offer a formal apology on behalf of our species. We have wronged you through our arrogance and prejudice. We also wish to propose a mutual defense treaty between Earth and worlds. What you have done here deserves more than words. Was surprised. A mutual defense treaty was a huge gesture, especially from a species as proud as the. I'll need to consult with Earth's government, but I think they'll be interested. There's more, continued. The Council has called an emergency session. They want to discuss what happened here. Several species are requesting to meet with you personally. Over the next week, news of the Battle of Haven's Rest spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The story was incredible. 12 human ships had defeated a swarm that had destroyed a superior fleet. They had used tactics that made no sense by traditional standards. They had improvised, adapted, and refused to give up even when the situation looked hopeless. On Earth, people gathered in the streets to celebrate. The crew of the Third Battle Fleet became instant heroes. Their names were everywhere. Admiral Jack, Captain Lisa Grant, Captain Rick Martinez, Captain Amy, Captain Greg and his crew who had kept fighting even as their ship fell apart around them. But on the Valiant, the mood was more somber. The crew held memorial services for those who had died. 347 names read aloud. 347 families who would never see their loved ones again. Lieutenant Burns, who had first detected the distress signal, stood at one of the services and cried. She was young and had never lost anyone before. Lieutenant Jake, who had piloted the Thunderbolt through impossible maneuvers, put a hand on her shoulder. "They died saving millions of lives," he said quietly. "That means something." "Does it make it hurt less?" asked. "No, but it makes it matter." On the 10th day after the battle, Admiral received a message from Earth Command. He was being recalled to Earth, along with his senior officers. The Galactic Council wanted to hold a special session, and humanity's representatives wanted there to explain what had happened. The battered Third Battle Fleet began the long journey home, escorted by ships who insisted on providing protection. It was the first time warships had ever served as escorts for human vessels. During the journey, had time to reflect on everything that had happened. They had proven themselves in combat, yes, but at what cost? 347 lives. Ships that would take months to repair. Crew members who would carry physical and mental scars for the rest of their lives. Was it worth it? He thought about the millions of civilians who were alive because of what they had done. He thought about the children who would grow up with parents who might have died. He thought about Governor, who had looked at humanity with new respect instead of contempt. Yes, it was worth it. Not because they had won, but because they had proven something important. They had proven that humans could be trusted, that humans would help others even at great cost to themselves, that humans belonged among the stars not because of their technology or their age as a species, but because of their character. When the fleet finally arrived at Earth, they found a celebration waiting for them. But Admiral made sure that before any parades or ceremonies, there was a memorial service. 347 names inscribed on a monument. 347 heroes who had answered a desperate call and paid the ultimate price. The inscription at the base of the monument read simply, "They came because someone needed help. That's what humans do." And across the galaxy, species who had dismissed humanity as primitive newcomers began to reconsider. Maybe technology and age weren't what mattered most. Maybe courage, compassion, and determination were worth more than 1,000 years of development. The age of humanity as a respected galactic power had begun. 3 weeks after the Battle of Haven's Rest, Admiral Jack stood in the Grand Council chamber on the Galactic Council's central station. The chamber was enormous, designed to accommodate representatives from hundreds of different species. Each delegation had their own platform arranged in a great circle around the central floor. Wore his dress uniform, freshly cleaned and pressed. The medals on his chest felt heavy. Next to him stood Commander Ben Harper, Captain Lisa Grant, Captain Rick Martinez, and Captain Amy. They represented the entire Third Battle Fleet today. The atmosphere in the chamber was different from any previous visit. Usually, when humans attended council sessions, there was a feeling of condescension in the air. The older species tolerated humanity's presence, but made it clear they considered humans to be children playing at galactic politics. Not today. Today, the chamber was silent with respect. The council speaker, a tall crystalline being named, stood at the central podium. His species had been part of the council for over 5,000 years. When he spoke, his voice resonated through the chamber in a way that made everyone listen. We are gathered here to discuss the incident at Haven's Rest, began. 3 weeks ago, a colony faced destruction at the hands of the Swarm. The defense fleet, consisting of 60 advanced warships, was destroyed. The colony's shields were failing. Millions of civilians faced certain death. He paused, letting the weight of those words settle over the chamber. The nearest reinforcements were 3 weeks away. Other council fleets were too distant or unable to respond. But one fleet was close enough. The human Third Battle Fleet, consisting of 12 ships with technology considered primitive by council standards, received the distress call and chose to respond. They turned to look directly at Admiral Jack. Please approach the center platform. He walked down the steps to the central floor, his footsteps echoing in the silent chamber. He could feel hundreds of eyes on him, representing dozens of species, all watching to see what would happen next. Admiral continued. The Council has reviewed the complete records of the battle. Your tactics were unconventional. Your methods violated standard military doctrine. Your approach seemed reckless to the point of suicide. He paused. And yet you achieved what the fleet could not. You saved millions of lives. Please, explain to the Council how this was possible. Took a deep breath. He hadn't prepared a fancy speech. He decided to just tell the truth. They have been fighting for thousands of years, he began. They've seen every standard military tactic. They know how organized, experienced fleets operate. They can adapt to conventional warfare because they've adapted to it countless times before. He looked around the chamber. But humans are new to space. We don't have thousands of years of military tradition. We don't have established doctrine that tells us the right way to fight. What we have is a history of solving impossible problems through creativity and determination. Gestured to his officers. Captain Grant flew her ship in patterns that no academy would teach because they couldn't predict randomness. Captain Martinez used weapons that seemed primitive because sometimes simple solutions work better than complex ones. Captain charged straight through the enemy because no one expected such a direct approach. We threw debris at them because they weren't ready for tactics that seemed crude. We won because we didn't know we were supposed to lose, he concluded. We won because we were willing to try things that seemed crazy. And we won because when someone calls for help, humans answer. It's that simple. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the delegation stood. Governor was among them. She placed her hand over her heart in the gesture of ultimate respect. One by one, other delegations began to stand. Though the morphin, the species that had questioned humanity's right to be on the council now stood in respect. Spoke again. The council has deliberated on this matter. We have a proposal to present. Admiral, the Galactic Council Security Committee has 5 permanent seats, reserved for species who have demonstrated wisdom, strength, and dedication to protecting all council members. He felt his heart beat faster. He knew what was coming. The council votes to offer humanity a permanent seat on the Security Committee, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. This honor is not granted lightly. In 5,000 years of council history, it has only been offered to species with at least 1,000 years of spacefaring experience. His crystalline face seemed to glow brighter. Until today, humanity has earned this through action, not age. Through courage, not technology. The vote was unanimous. The chamber erupted in a sound that could only describe as applause, though different species expressed it in different ways. Some clapped, some hummed. Some flashed lights or released pleasant scents. I felt overwhelmed. This was more than he had expected, more than anyone had expected. Admiral said, "Do you accept this honor on behalf of humanity?" Thought about the 347 crew members who had died at Haven's Rest. He thought about the wounded still recovering. He thought about all the humans back on Earth who dreamed of a future among the stars. "On behalf of humanity, I accept," he said clearly. "But I want the Council to understand something. We're not going to change who we are. We will continue to answer distress calls, even from those who don't like us. We will take risks that seem reckless. We will break rules when breaking rules saves lives. If that's not acceptable, then maybe we don't belong on the Security Committee." His crystalline body chimed with what might have been laughter. "Admiral, the Council is counting on exactly that. We have become comfortable with our established ways. Perhaps we need someone to remind us that there are always new solutions to old problems." The ceremony continued for another hour, with formal declarations and official documents. But the important moment had already passed. Humanity was no longer the least respected member of the Council. They were now one of the 5 permanent Security Committee members, equal to species that had been spacefaring for. As the ceremony ended and the delegations began to leave, Governor approached. With her was another, an older male with formal robes that marked him as high-ranking. Admiral, this is Ambassador Moraz, our representative to the Security Committee, introduced. He personally sponsored the motion to offer humanity a seat. Bowed slightly. Governor told me everything you did for our people. She also told me how we have treated humans since you joined the council. I am ashamed of my species' arrogance. We thought age meant wisdom. We were wrong. Everyone makes mistakes, said. What matters is what we do after. Well said, smiled. I look forward to working with you on the Security Committee. I suspect you will make things interesting. Over the next few days, and his officers were flooded with requests. A dozen species wanted to arrange military training exchanges. Others wanted to discuss alliance treaties. The military academy invited Captain Lisa Grant to teach a course on unconventional tactics. Several species offered to share advanced technology with Earth. But the most meaningful moment came when returned to Earth. The entire planet was celebrating. Cities held parades. Schools taught about the Battle of Haven's Rest. Children played games pretending to be the crew of the Third Battle Fleet. Went directly to the memorial for the fallen crew members. The monument had been expanded, with detailed plaques for each person who had died. Families stood there, touching the names, remembering. He found the family of Lieutenant Henry Moss, a young man from his ship who had died in the battle. The parents looked up as approached. I'm so sorry, said. Henry was a good officer. He died saving millions of lives. The mother, tears in her eyes, surprised him by smiling. We know, and we're proud of him. He did what he always wanted to do. He helped people. That realized was the real victory. Not the council seat, not the recognition, but the fact that humans had proven they could help others, even at great cost. They had shown the galaxy that courage and compassion mattered more than age or technology. 6 months later, Admiral took his seat on the Galactic Council Security Committee for the first time. The other 4 permanent members greeted him with respect. They had questions about human tactics, about Earth's military capabilities, about how humanity planned to contribute to galactic security. Answered honestly. Humanity would continue to be humanity. They would break rules that needed breaking. They would try solutions others thought impossible. And they would always answer when someone called for help. 1 year after the Battle of Haven's Rest, Lieutenant Burns was working her shift on the Valiant's bridge. The ship had been fully repaired and was now the flagship for the Council's new rapid response force. Half the crew was human. The other half was made up of volunteers from a dozen different species, all wanting to learn the human approach to problem solving. Admiral said suddenly, "I'm picking up a distress signal. It's coming from the system. They're under attack by pirates. Their defense ships are outnumbered." Admiral, now older and with a few more gray hairs, smiled slightly. "How far away are we?" 2 days, sir. If we use the shortcut through the nebula." Pressed the fleet-wide communication button. "All ships, this is Admiral. We've received a distress call. Someone needs our help. Prepare to jump in 10 minutes." Around him, the crew moved with practiced efficiency. Humans, all working together. The ship hummed with energy and purpose. Ben Harper, now a full admiral himself and serving as second in command again, shook his head with a smile. "Here we go again." "Here we go again," agreed. "Set course for the system. Let's show them what happens when you call for help and humans answer." The Valiant and its fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing toward another battle, another chance to help, another opportunity to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. And across the galaxy, on 1,000 different worlds, when people heard that humans had answered another distress call, they smiled. Because everyone now knew the truth that they had learned at Haven's Rest. When humans hear a desperate call for help, they don't calculate the odds. They don't worry about whether it's safe. They don't ask if the people calling for help deserve it. They just come. That was what made them special. Not their weapons or their ships or their tactics, but their unwavering belief that when someone needed help, you helped them, no matter what. The age of humanity had begun not with conquest or dominance, but with a simple act of courage and compassion, and the galaxy was better for it. In the command center on Haven's Rest, Governor watched her screens as news came in of the human fleet responding to the distress call. She smiled, remembering the day her world was saved. "What are you smiling about?" her aide asked. "Just remembering," said softly. "Remembering the day I learned that the best technology in the universe is a good heart and the courage to use it. On Earth, in the memorial park where the names of the fallen were inscribed, a new plaque had been added. It read, "They came because someone needed help. That's what humans do. May we never forget their sacrifice, and may we always answer the call." And somewhere in deep space, racing toward another crisis, another battle, another chance to help, Admiral Jack sat in his command chair and felt at peace. This was what humanity was meant to do. This was their purpose among the stars. Not to conquer, not to dominate, but to help, and always to help. The desperate SOS that had called in Earth's best battle fleet had changed everything, and the galaxy would never be the same.